guys, so I'm out here. I'm still in Vegas. I'm still out here in Vegas. My flights, my travel got changed. If you guys listened on Friday, I wanted to recap. I was thinking of calling in to Jim Rome here on this podcast and storing him. We're going to have to put that on hold. I need to be in a studio for that so that I have the line and the connection. So anybody that was waiting for that, we're not letting Rome off the hook just this quick. But I do want to talk about UFC 200. There was so many things that happened that were great for business. First off, UFC 200. Okay, right there you've got marketing. Right there you've got a historic event. You load the card. You stack it from top to bottom. You got title fights. You've got the grudge match with Jones and Cormier, the return of Brock Lesnar. The list goes on and on. You add fight week. Jeter Jasic's fighting the night before. Alvarez and RDA are fighting the night before that. You add the Expo. You add the fact that it's in a brand new, the T-Mobile Arena. It was just a really remarkable time. But the single greatest thing, and there were so many people as the week unfolded, as the controversy was coming out with Jon Jones being flagged by USADA for a doping violation. There was so many naysayers that were so happy that thought, well, it's all collapsing. I bet Dana White's not getting any sleep. The one thing that people miss, nothing creates cash like controversy. Nothing. You can put all the plans in place that you want, but you can't plan for controversy. You have to just sit back and hope that it happens. That's the bottom line. They got more media, more press, more attention, and then all of a sudden you have the parody of Anderson Silva. And that was what made that fight so intriguing. It was not the inclusion of Anderson on the card. Anderson could have stepped. He was supposed to fight a few weeks ago. And it didn't have the fare that this had. It didn't have the buzz around it. It was the parody. You bring in the longest reigning middleweight champion of all time to take on the greatest light heavyweight in the sport today. Well, we're all fans. We sit around, we speculate, we talk about dream matches. We never talk about that one. We never talk about it because of the parody. They couldn't get matched up. They were in different weight classes because the timing worked. That match became really intriguing. Now let's back up. Let's talk about Jon Jones. So to walk you through my experience, I'm out here in Vegas as part of the crew for ESPN. It was Jonathan Coachman and I. Brett Okamoto was out here. Phil Murray was doing some stuff behind the scenes. And so if something breaks, it's us. We're on. And our schedules were pretty full from top to bottom. And don't forget, ESPN is located in Bristol, so that's back east. So if we're doing a primetime shot for 8 a.m. East Coast, that means we're up and going. We're live at 5 a.m., which puts you up out of bed about 3:45. So it made for some long days. That's my point. It made for some long days. When your day is finally done, you're pretty well rested to put your feet up and see if you can catch up on some sleep. So it's, I don't know, 8 or 9. I'm off. I'm done. We're done for the day. And my phone starts going off. Hey, you got to be ready. We're going to have you calling a sports center. Well, why? What's going on? And all that had happened is Dana White called an emergency press conference. He said there'll be a press conference in 20 minutes. I have substantial news. That was the exact words he used. So we had no idea what was going on. And, the speculation for weeks has been that there's going to be a UFC sale. There was even some guesses that they did not want to announce the sale prior to UFC 200 because that could steal some thunder, but that they would do it at UFC 200, meaning sometime this week. But when we get the call that he's got substantial news, we start thinking, well, Jesus, this is tied somehow to the sale. Never did we think it would be a violation or that the main event was going to be interrupted. So Dana holds the press conference, and he comes out, and for those of you that didn't see it, there's a podium set up. Dana takes the stage, and he's quiet. He doesn't say anything. He's waiting for cameras in the right moment and for the whole thing to get started. And somebody from the audience yells him a question and says, hey, are we here because of something to do with USADA? And Dana answers the guy. Dana says, yeah, And that's all he says. So the press conference starts. Dana says, a sentence or two, and he sits down. He sits right down. Now, Dana White's never short on words. He sits down. He lets Jeff Novinsky come up and give the news. Jeff Novinsky comes out, and he says USADA's flagged Jon Jones for a doping violation. The end. The fight's off. Jones is out. Done. So no one knows what the heck's going on. Well, this is at 8 p.m. The next morning at 8 a.m., Jon Jones held a press conference. And this is relevant. The fact that Jon called it is a relevant piece to understand for the story. So we go down there to cover it. It's only been 12 hours. Now, I've been in Jon's spot. I can't imagine he got any sleep that night. Everything's getting pulled in 100 different directions. There's thousands of questions coming in. And he holds a press conference. Now, all I can do is speculate. That's it. That's all I can do. But I've been in his shoes, so my speculation is based on some pretty good evidence. And over time, I think it'll show that I'm right. But I do need to disclose for you guys, a lot of this is guessing, because when Jon holds a press conference, look, you want to do two things if you're holding a press conference. Okay, you are not under subpoena. You do not have to be there. You are not under oath. At a press conference is your time to tell your story. When you go into a hearing and you get sworn in, rules change a little bit, but that is why you have a press conference. So you want to break some news, get ahead of it. You want to break it yourself so you can get ahead of the story before other people start reporting rumors and innuendo. You then have a hope that you can win over the media and that they'll say something nice about you. That generally doesn't come through, but that's your hope. The first part is the entire reason you hold the press conference, so that you can break some news and tell a story before somebody else does. Well, that was the one thing that didn't happen. We left that press conference not knowing any more than we went in. All we knew was that Jon Jones was out of UFC 200. He's going to be in some red tape. He's likely facing 2 years. He's been flagged by USADA. The one card that they had left to play is for what? What was he flagged for? The substance. That was the one thing that they could have revealed. Now, the reason that they should have, or the reason we believe they were going to, is because USADA is going to release it anyway. They were against the clock. It was going to come out. So if you're holding a press conference and that's the only card that you've still got left, you want to play it. Or don't hold the press conference. There's an argument for not even having the press conference, but this is the route they elected to go down. They don't tell us what the substance is. They don't say. So I'm a little bit confused going, wait, Jon's going to get on a plane, go back home, bury his head in the sand for a while, wait to outrun this thing. Okay, he's going to be knee deep in red tape. He's going to have to get lawyers and go to hearings and commit. He's got a lot of stuff he has to do. This is his time to tell us the substance. And then where he wants to go from there would likely be to tell us how it got in his system. He's got a couple of choices. One is to say, look, it was a tainted supplement. Two, I had no idea this was on the ban list. And that's a real answer. People are really tired of hearing guys saying it, but it doesn't make it any less true. That banned list is extremely confusing. And it is not as simple as checking a substance against the ban list. It is absolutely not. You could check a substance against the ban list. It could come back and you could get a green light. And then that substance could have ingredients within it that you did not check. It gets really confusing, guys. And the words, I mean, you've got words here with 12 and 13 letters in them. 4 and 5 syllables. Words you've never even heard. Names you've never even heard of substances that are on these ban lists. So it gets a little bit tough. I assumed that Jon was going to lay out his story. And he's only got two options. Either I did it, and then he can go where he wants from there. He can tell everybody I did it. I didn't think I'd get caught. Shove it up your ass. I'll see it at my hearing. Or he can say, look, I did it, and I'm sorry. He can go whatever direction he wants there. But that's one option. The other option is to outright deny it. The test is wrong. Now, that's a big problem. If there's anything that the commissions hate, It's when a guy doesn't come clean. If there's anything that USADA, who will protect itself at all costs, and they've got an unlimited budget, if there's anything that those guys will do, it is to protect their reputation. So if you say that the science is wrong, they will stop at no limit to prove that the science is right and maintain their credibility, okay? But those are your two options, and those are your only options. So Jon comes out, he holds a press conference, he keeps the substance back. It was a little bit confusing. We didn't gain any ground. I'll tell you this. This doesn't make Jon innocent. Okay, Jon's guilty. It's innocent. They've got the test. He's guilty. But his actions were that of an innocent man. A guilty guy throughout the history of these types of things does not come down 12 hours later and hold a press conference. He tucks away with his team. He gets his story together. He figures it out. He looks into the legalities. He gets everything in line and waits for a hearing. He does not come out and talk. Jon came out and talked. I appreciated that. I think all the media did. I think the fans and fighters did too. It took courage. It took courage for him to get up, to walk through the hotel in front of all of the fans that are down there waiting for him, that are yelling things at him and asking him and mad and saying he ruined it and I came out here to see you and all and then face the media. And the other thing when you face the media in these situations, it's PR 101. It's very frustrating. It's very disingenuous. But PR 101 says you show up, you read a prepared statement, and you leave. You take no questions. Jon didn't do that. He took every question they had, and he did not have a prepared statement at all. It was very interesting. It wasn't the way, historically, a guilty person would have behaved. Here's my commentary on it, though. Here's an afterthought. Again, this is from my own experience. When I was in Jon's spot, it was the exact same. I got a test that came in. The things they found, they didn't really matter. Nobody knew what they were. They didn't have anything to do with performance. They didn't have any, they were silly things that were on the test, and all was going to be forgiven. They just weren't that big of. In Jon's case, he has some kind of estrogen blockers. Now, the deal with estrogen blockers is they really don't matter. They just don't. They just don't. But they're banned. So it is illegal. It's cheating. You can't have them. There's no way around that. Jon's big thing was, hey, I didn't cheat. I didn't take a performance enhancer. Well, that's a misunderstanding. If you took a banned substance, you cheated. It doesn't have to be a performance enhancer. That's the media misrepresenting that. There's a banned list. It does get silly. I'll concede that. It's still cheating. Period. So Jon has estrogen blockers. It then later comes out that he's got 2 estrogen blockers. Now, there's no supplement out there that's tainted and has estrogen blocker. He had to take the estrogen blockers, even though he hasn't come to terms with that and isn't ready to tell everybody that's what happened. And he will get there. He's got no choice. The science is in place. He doesn't want to take on USADA. But, again, when I went through it and I was in the same spot, so what? So what? Well, what I was secretly carrying with me was the one piece of knowledge that I had that nobody else did, which is there's another test out there. The results just haven't come in. In Jon's case, I think one of the questions that's yet to be answered is, did that happen to him? Is that what he's going through? We had this press conference and we had this debacle over a test that was taken on June 16th. Those are the results that are back. Those are the 2 banned substances that have got him in this spot. Is there another test out there? Is there another shoe that could drop? The next test could come back and it's clean, but it could drop. On me, it did. I think the answer is yes. And if it's not, then USADA's got some explaining to do. If a guy who's failed a test before is the champion of the world and is main eventing the biggest card in history, last test was 1 month before the fight, USADA's got some explaining to do. I don't think USADA works that way. I believe there's at least one more test out there, if not two, and Jon doesn't have the results of those back. And he's got to be careful. He's got to be careful. He didn't know this stuff was going to show up. You just don't know. You just don't know. And I think that could be the next piece of this story, is when the results for the next test come back.